everyone, so it's Holly with Missouri River Soap, and I'm going to be making my Stars and Stripes soap today. I have these cute little star cutouts, and I thought I'd just show you how I make a little bit of the stars. So I just have a cute little cookie cutter here, and I made a batch of white soap and just cut it into small pieces. And that's all there is to it. It's not a difficult thing at all. It's just a little bit of planning ahead. So I will just keep cutting these out, and I'll see you back here to make the whole batch. So Stars and Stripes is going to be a goat milk soap this time. So I'm going to add in a little bit of the goat milk. Now I'm splitting this into 3 batches because I want to have 3 even layers, and I didn't want to have to fuss with, you know, timing and everything. I just wanted to have a relaxed soap making, so I did go ahead and split it into the 3. Going to add in the lye solution. And I probably won't show you this part every single time, but this is how I'm going to prepare each batch. Going to add in the fragrance, which is a cherry blend. This is the red layer. It's been a really long time since I've made this soap, and the last time I made it I used tomato red from TKB Trading. This time I'm going to use really red from Nurture Soap. The usage on this is 1 to 2 teaspoons per pound of oil. I've only mixed up the 1. I don't want it to be pink by any means, but I don't particularly care for super intense reds, so I'm probably just going to call this good, though I might attempt to scrape every last bit out. It is going to lighten up, but my cherry fragrance is going to discolor a little bit, which is going to bring its intensity down a little bit more. So I have my mold here, and I'm just at a light trace. But I think I'll just take a moment in between batches. That way I can just assure that it's nice and straight. And it sure does look bright, doesn't it? Woo-wee. I think if that turns pink, we'll just have to be okay with it. And in the fragrance, this is a apple fragrance. And then I'm going to use titanium dioxide. Titanium dioxide is one of those colors that you really, or you know, pigments that you really got to get the stick blender in there and blend it up. And it'll intensify whiter as it goes. I've tweaked my recipe. I've done this one several times before, but I've tweaked it to be shea butter free. For those of you that can't handle shea butter, check out my next release because it's going to have more shea free soaps available. So I'm going to flood it on using one of these adorable spatulas from Bramble Berry, but I don't believe they're available anymore, which is sad because they're so handy. They're not a great like for scraping the containers out, but they're a great one for flooding like this. So for this layer, I'm using ultramarine blue. It's just a pretty potent blue. I usually add some charcoal or something to make this a darker color, but it always ends up pretty dark because the blueberry fragrance does discolor just a little bit. And in with the blueberry fragrance. These three scents together are so good. I love them. And it brings back such good memories of working with it before, and I don't know why I haven't made it for several years. I just don't think I had my act together was all. It's such a fun one to do. So I'll go ahead and get this on because I still want it to be a somewhat flat top, but I will have to wait a little bit to push the stars on. Isn't that so pretty? Wow. It's not as critical that this layer be as completely flat. It can be a little bit more textured on the top if need be. Love it so much. Okay, so I have my stars. They're super duper adorable. They have a little bit of gold sparkle in them. So I'll try to get my gloves pulled up so I'll have full use of my fingers. Don't have any extra hanging up on the end. And let's see. I feel lost. I'm not quite sure where I want to start here. I think I have plenty stars, so I'm just gonna start fitting them in as I can. I have a little half or thirds over here. That I can use on the edges. Of course, these are the tall bars, so not every bar is going to have a full star. But I know from past experiences that they still look really neat. I remembered that I'm going to have an end piece there. So we'll push them in a little bit. Some are thicker than others. And this is just going to take a while. I'm going to try to move in a little here so you guys can see it a little bit better. And these stars weren't super white, but in comparison to the soap around it, they look pretty decent. here we have the Stars and Stripes soap, and I will see you back here for the cut. Okay, so here I am to cut Stars and Stripes soap, and I did quite well with not getting ash. I was quite attentive to it, but I also reduced the water in this batch, and that does help quite a bit. I just love it. So the red did bleed into the white just a hair. Like, it's not bad. It's just not bad at all. But it did still do it a little bit. And it's quite intense. So I do need to clean off this wire with each cut, so that it doesn't smear the red back down on the top. So this bar got to have its own star, so that's fun. And look at that. Doesn't that look nice? I just love the layers. Everything worked out pretty much as planned. Now, one concern is, though, not really a concern, but the red is still a little bit speckly. Even though I really mixed that up well with a mini mixer and also with my stick blender, it still ended up a little bit speckly. So that really red really needs to be worked with nicely. I have heard about running some of the colorant through a coffee grinder, but oh, wouldn't that be just a mess? I just can't imagine doing that, but I'm sure it works. I feel like it would just create too big of a mess for me. So we'll just roll with it. I don't do too many intense reds, and this was at 1 teaspoon per pound with my recipe. Everybody's recipe is going to be a little bit different. Some recipes are whiter, you know, with higher coconut, or say palm, which kind of has a yellowy white tinge. If you're using an olive oil, that might have a bit of a green hue or super yellow. It all affects it. All the colors are a little bit, it's really, your mileage may vary. It's kind of what it comes down to. Oh, this soap just turned out so great. It has just been eons and ages since I made this soap. I used to make it in, it was a huge, I don't even, look, I'm not even in the, just a really large mold, and the bars were just the short, wide bars. So it had a little bit more surface area to put in the stars. So I kind of like it this way a little bit better. We're having a beautiful day, and I just noticed that our neighbor got his Harley out. It's a beautiful day in Missouri. Lovely. So I was thinking, so here in Missouri, our kickoff for summer is Memorial Day, and that's the general thought process for the Memorial Day weekend. However, it is different based on where you live. So, you know, in Missouri, it's a lake weekend for sure. Hot, miserable, steamy, usually. But the year we went to Montana and we went up to Flathead Lake, which is the region that I was, where I grew up, it was dead. It was like crickets. Boats hadn't been taken off their lifts yet. I was like, okay, this is boring. But it was still, even though it was nice while we were there, that area did not consider Memorial Day weekend to really kick off boating weekend and such. So anyway, it is different based on what region. We've been hot for a while. We've had our air conditioner running. It's mostly the humidity. You know, there's been some nice days that we could get by without an air conditioner running, but it's the humidity. And it just becomes a steam bath, and you walk around and your carpet feels wet, and it's just weird. So I've been on air conditioner solid for quite a long while already. and that's probably what you hear in the background. I turned it down as much as I can, but I have a window unit up here in my studio. If you haven't seen my soap studio tour, that might be of interest. I'll try to remember to link it. So this just turned out super duper. So this is my loaf that I'm going to use for my short and sweet, so I'm not going to show you any bars. That helps with my editing, so I don't have to super duper edit and transition. It gets a little old sometimes. So I do not intend is not a good word. I suspect that this soap is going to be a bleeder, and that means that it may stain a washcloth from the intense colors. I don't usually find it to be a problem a whole lot, but if you're using, you know, a white washcloth, it may not be your thing to necessarily use this soap with. It's pretty potent. I was well within safe usage rates, so we'll see. I'll just have to see what happens in the long run. I haven't tested it yet, obviously, because it's not cured. Our goal as soap makers is to use color but not have colored lather. But there are some designs that, due to the intensity of the color that we're trying to get, it may have colored lather. Okay, now that that one's done, so I was going to show you on one of these mixed bars. This loaf took a bit of a beating. Now, I have a little bit of ash there on the white, and I don't know, this loaf kind of took a little bit of a beating. I don't know if you can really see that. Now here, I don't know, can you see these little like drippy marks? That's where I was spraying it with alcohol while it was still in the mold, and it had dried enough that some of the freezer paper had come away from it. I do like to leave my soaps in the mold a little bit longer because it does help with ash. That's not always the case. Another soap I made the same day went through the whole same process and has a lot more ash than this. Okay, let's see. So I think you can see, if I get it nice and close, you probably can see that red is bleeding up into the white. Now that may try to do it a little bit more throughout the cure, but hopefully not too much. That's pretty much it. I am just pleased as punch with this batch. So I was going to ask you, what are your plans for the summer? Are you going to take a nice vacation? Where are you going? I don't know about us. We're really spontaneous. We usually wait until about a week out and just say if kind of the stars align. Kind of a funny statement, but you know, to see if everything works out, and then we just take off. That's just how we roll, but we don't fly places, you know. We'll just pull out the camper if we decide to go anywhere. We almost went to Montana this week, but we put the brakes on that trip. Just decided that, oh, that's a long old haul. I think it's 26 hours on the road, and when you're pulling a fifth wheel, you have to go quite a bit slower than the average car. So you have to deal with quite a lot of interesting traffic stuff going on. People aren't very nice around campers. They don't realize that, you know, it's like a tractor trailer. They can't stop that fast, and people just pull the silliest things. So I guess public service announcement, please be considerate of people pulling fifth wheels and, you know, motorhomes and tractor trailers, because these people can't stop in the same way that a little car without any weight behind it can stop. Anyway, so we just like, you know what, we're just not really in the mood to deal with all of that. And when you make that kind of a run, like to Montana, you need to plan on being there for a little while. You can't do a week thing because it'll take you dang near a week to get there in the first place. Alright, so there we have the Stars and Stripes soap. And it'll be coming up later in June. Alright guys, I'll talk to you later. Bye.